visiting Butterfield Elementary School this week, and I would like to do a little video, a little walk around of the airplane that we're going to be talking about. Basically, I'm going to be talking to them about the construction of this airplane, what it was like to build it, fly it, just explain to them the process, the experience it was and still is, just to kind of open their eyes to aviation a little bit, maybe something that they have never seen or knew was possible before. So I'm looking forward to it. So basically I'm going to go around and maybe just point out a few of the features of the airplane that are common to this airplane and also common to other airplanes as well, just to give them a better understanding of how planes fly, how they go together, and how they work. So anyway, I'll start over here on the front of the airplane and kind of work my way around. Start with, at the front of the airplane, you'll notice on all single engine airplanes, most of them will have a prop at the front of the airplane. And this prop is what's connected to the engine, and it gives you the thrust and the power to pull you through the air that will allow you to fly. So very important piece of the airplane here, and won't fly without it. Down below the airplane, you're going to see the main landing gear. That has the brakes, has a brake on each wheel, helps you stop. All this is covering the engine compartment. You can kind of see in the engine compartment, maybe a little bit right here. See some of the fins on the cylinder walls and various components of the engine. These inlets here are what allow the cold air to come into the engine to cool it off. So you're going to have air blowing through here cooling the engine. You're also going to have air blowing through this little port on the front, which is going to cool the oil of the engine. And then it's all going to exit down at the bottom of the cowling. So it's going to blow in and then come down through the engine and exit out. So that's going to help keep the engine cool. The two pipes that are sticking down, that's the exhaust pipes, pretty much just like what's on your parents' automobile. It's a tailpipe coming out of the back of the car. So as we walk around the airplane, you're going to see this whole center section of the airplane is called the fuselage. And that's the main body. That's where you sit inside the fuselage. It's all one solid component from the front to the back, all together. You have your two wings on the aircraft. These are the main wings. These are what support the majority of the weight of the aircraft while the airplane's flying. On the wings themselves, you're going to see that there's some moving parts on the backs of the wings. These are called the ailerons, and they help you turn and bank the aircraft. So inside the cockpit, I'll show you a control stick, and it's directly connected to these ailerons. So when I want to turn to the left, I'll move the stick to the left, and we'll see this aileron raise. Now on the other side of the airplane, it's going to go down. So one wing does the exact opposite of the other depending on the direction of the turn. So as this comes up to make a left bank turn, the wind's going to come across here. It's going to hit some resistance because this is up, and it's going to push that wing down. So that's going to cause you to bank to the left. So, and it's the exact opposite on the other side. So these are your ailerons. These components here are your flaps. Generally, when you're flying, these are going to be straight out even with your ailerons. You'll use these during the landing phase of your flight to help you descend at a little steeper angle. It's also going to change the pitch of the airplane to where the nose will pitch down a little bit, give you a little better visibility over the nose. It's also going to slow the airplane down and give you a little better flying characteristics at slow speeds. So these flaps are very important when you're landing. I use them every time. As you walk to the back of the airplane, you have your horizontal stabilizer, which is this. It's like another little mini wing right here, but it also has an elevator on it. Okay, normally when you're flying along and you're in level flight, the elevator is going to be about in this position. This is also connected to the control stick in the aircraft. So when I pull back on that stick to go up, you're going to see this elevator raise up. What that's going to do is it's going to catch some wind, and the wind's going to force the tail down, which is going to point the nose of the airplane up, which is going to help you climb out. Same way as when you want to go down, you'll push the stick forward, and this elevator will go in a downward position, which is the wind's going to come across it, it's going to hit it, and it's going to raise that tail up, which is going to point the nose of the aircraft down. So very important. This is the elevator and the aileron on the left wing and on the right wing are all connected to that control stick. So that control stick's controlling both of these. This here's a trim tab. I'll show you a little bit later. There's a little trim lever in the cockpit, and that goes up and down, and it just helps the planes, you know, if you're flying along, it helps it remain level to where there's very little need to push on the stick. The plane will pretty much fly itself with even your hands off the stick for a moment. So the trim tabs used help maintain the attitude of the airplane, and so I use that a lot. Right here you have your rudder. It's connected to the vertical stabilizer right here, and the rudder is used to yaw the airplane to the left and to the right. So if it's pushed over like it is right now, the wind's going to come across here and it's going to push the aircraft, and it's going to push the back of the aircraft to the left, and then it's going to point the nose of the aircraft off to the right. So you use that a lot in your turns, and then also on the ground when you're taxiing around. It's this same rudder is connected to a tail wheel, and you'll notice it's pointed in the same direction as the rudder. And as that moves left and right, so does the tail wheel. So that's how you turn on the ground. If you want to make a left-hand turn, you push the pedal on the left, and this wheel will come around like that, and the airplane will go off to the left. So that's how you do that. And the pedals that I'm referring to are connected to this cable right here. So the cable is what controls everything in the back of the airplane right here. So we'll move around over here, and you can see this side of the aircraft, and you notice everything's pretty much the same. The flaps, this flap's down, the flap on the other wing's down. They are connected together, so if one comes down, they both come down. Ailerons, if one goes up, the other one goes down. So it's the exact opposite for both wings. So that's for when you're turning. So if it was to come up on this side, this wing is going to get wind pressure right here. It's going to push this wing down, and you're going to be banking off to the right. So always remember the wing with the aileron up, it's going to be banking to its side. Right here I have some position lights. These will be flashing when I'm flying. One's going to be green, one's going to be red. That helps other planes know what direction you're flying. So you can notice the wing and the shape of the wing. I don't know if you can see that, but that's the overall shape of the wing. And also on this airplane, if you notice, if you look at the shape of the wing and you also look at the shape of the fuselage where the canopy and everything is, very similar shape, and they call that the fuselage is actually a flying component. It's built just like a wing to have lift, so it's kind of unique to this airplane how it's built. Go back around here. Also, you'll see these antennas poking up. This one right here is for the radio that I use to talk and communicate with other airplanes, and also to air traffic control, which is up in the towers. This one here is connected to a emergency locator. So if you're ever to need help, that radio would emit a signal. It would help people find you and give you assistance. And so this is pretty much the aircraft. I'll do one last walk around so you can see it. Next, I was going to show you some of the tools that I used. All right, let's show you the cockpit first. Let's open this up. All right, this is the inside of the airplane right here. I'll just go through here real quick and explain some of the features of this airplane. On the left-hand side, I always fly with my right hand. I sit in the left seat right here. This is the control stick that's actually controlling the movements of those ailerons on the wings. You can see as I go left, the aileron on the left wing comes up. As I go right, the aileron on the right wing goes up. So, and the one on the left wing goes down. So they are controlled oppositely. And as I push the stick forward, you're going to see in the back of the airplane, the elevator's down, and as I pull back on the stick, it's going to come up. So that when I pull back on the stick to cause the airplane to go up, so does the elevator. The elevator comes back. Okay. Over here, I also have that little trim lever right here, and that operates that trim tab that I showed you on the rear elevator. This is the flap lever. This is going to raise the flaps all the way up. Now you'll notice now they're up, and both the ailerons and the flaps are in the same position right now. And then I have a brake lever down here, which will control the brakes. So I do a lot with my left hand. I control my throttle, my trim, my flaps, and my brake. I also control most of the other instruments with my left hand while I'm flying, so I can keep my right hand on the stick. This is a mixture control on-off switch, a starter button. You push that to start the engine. A master switch. That's the main power to the airplane. It'll turn everything on. These two here are engine magneto switches. I turn those on to start the engine. So those will be on first, and then I'll hit the start button to start the engine. Also have these switches here turn on the radios and the engine instrument system. And then this is an accessory switch, and this here is two switches which can switch the cylinder head temperature probes from front to rear. So I use those to check both cylinder head temperatures. Up here I have my radio. That's what I use to talk to the control tower and to other airplanes. My engine instrument, I don't know if you can see that or not, but basically it's going to give you a warning annunciator if there's a problem with the engine or anything is out of its range that you set it for. It's also going to tell you the altitude. It's going to tell you how fast you're going, how long you've been flying, all the engine temperatures, all the oil pressures, All those is going to be displayed on here. This here is your GPS. Very similar to what your parents use in their car. You punch in where you want to go and it tells you what direction to fly. Very nice to have, but you always want to make sure you have good maps with you just in case something was to go wrong. You at least know where you were at in relationship to what this unit was saying, so you know you're always flying in the right direction. These here are circuit breakers. Those are overload protection for all the electronic circuits which are inside this airplane. If one of those was to trip, it would indicate there was a short circuit somewhere and something would need to be fixed. These here are my air nozzles. Allows fresh air to come into the cockpit while I'm flying. And this is a compass which tells you what direction you're going. Right now we're almost going east, so that's our heading indicator. In the back of the airplane we have, you can look in the back and see kind of how the airplane's put together. All the pieces, all the rivets, all of the ribs, kind of similar to the wing that I'm going to show you. The construction's very similar throughout, so you know, once you build one component, others are very similar. This is the emergency locator transmitter. That's the one that would get you help if you were needing it, if you landed somewhere off an airport somewhere and needed assistance. That would emit a signal to help you get help. This is all the paperwork that's required that you have in the airplane, the airworthiness certificate, the registration, all of that is in that envelope. This is the baggage compartment right here. As you can see, I got a few bags in here right now. And then you can kind of see where the antennas are connected, and the push rod, the black rod that goes down through the center, that's connected to the controls stick. That goes back to the rudder and to the elevator. And that's pretty much the back. If you come around here to the front, the aircraft, I can lean down here and show you those rudder pedals. You can see there's 4 black pedals that you put your feet on. Those are what control the rudder. So that's pretty much the inside of the aircraft. I'm going to turn some of these switches off. And we'll turn this one off. Save its battery. Turn the master off. Okay, it's turned off. Now I'm going to go around and show you some of the tools. I'll show you some of the tools I used to build this aircraft and kind of explain some of those. All right, let's come over here. All right. A lot of these are just common tools that your dad probably has around the house or you've seen your mom use. I got a standard drill. This is a little air grinder that I used. A little handheld riveter. This is what we'll use to use the rivets. This is what a rivet looks like. And you can see what's left of them after you put them in the airplane here. This is Coleco pliers. These are special for aircraft. Once you drill a hole into 2 pieces of metal, you can put this in the hole you drilled, let up on it, and it'll hold those 2 pieces of metal together. So those are very neat. Standard socket sets, wrenches, end wrenches, drill bits. This is a rivet puller that's air powered, so I can use this little air compressor that I have here. That's how I pulled most of the rivets in this airplane. There was a few you couldn't reach, so you had to use a hand riveter. Some standard files, tin snips, which are pretty much like scissors, except instead of for being used on paper, they're used on sheet metal like this. So this metal, you can actually cut it with these tin snips. Allen wrenches, had to use those. Flashlight, couldn't have enough of these little flashlights, those were handy. A tape measure, rubber hammer to help put parts together, multimeter. So that's kind of the basics. There's a few other tools that I used, miscellaneous, that were needed for special things. Some of the power tools that I used were a bandsaw, a drill press, and then a bench grinder. Bench grinder I used a bunch. This has got a special wheel on it. It's just slightly rough, but it's made to smooth up the edges of aluminum. Once you cut them on the bandsaw, you got to smooth off the rough edges, and I would use this wheel right here. Worked really well. Back over here, some more miscellaneous tools I have. I know it's not very organized, but that's where I keep a lot of them. Over here, this is a wing stand. I don't know if you can picture it, but the wings would be laying upright in this wing stand once I finished them. I'd put them in on this stand to kind of hold them to keep them from getting damaged. So I built this shortly before the first wing was done, so I had somewhere to put it. And then the workbench, I guess that was my first project. I built the workbench so that I could start building this airplane. And I built that in my garage, where I built the majority of the aircraft. The portion that I put together was done in the garage. Once I brought it to the hangar, I brought the wings and the fuselage separate. I put the wings on in the hangar. I put the engine on in the hangar. And I always love seeing those jets take off. And then I finished up the instrument panel and the cowling and the canopy. I finished those two things up while it was out here at the hangar. Basically, the plane wouldn't fit in my garage with the wings on, obviously, but also with the engine on, it wouldn't fit in my garage. So once I moved it out to the hangar, I think it took me at least 6 months, maybe 8 months, to finish up the last part of the work that I had to do on the aircraft. All right, kids, I just got in the airplane, all buckled in. I got my seatbelt on, getting ready to start the engine up. First thing I want to do is make sure the brake's on, so I got the parking brake set. I'm going to turn the radio off while I start the engine. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the ignition on, turn the master on, I'll turn the mags on, also turn my engine instrument on. I'll have the radio off while I'm starting the engine, so you won't be able to hear me talk when I turn this off. But anyway, I'll set the throttle at idle, a little bit cracked, a little bit forward of idle. I'll turn the fuel on, and at that point, I'll hit the starter and turn the mixture on so I have full fuel going to the engine. At that point, you'll see the propeller start spinning and the engine will start up. So that's what's getting ready to happen. All right, here we go. I'm going to turn the radio off. All right, I just got the engine started up. It's showing that I'm running about 1,350 RPMs. That's usually a good warm-up speed for the engine. When I'm going to do now is I'm making sure I have good oil pressure, which I do. It shows the oil temperature at 84 degrees, which is about the outside air temperature right now, so that's about what I would expect. All right, one of the first things we'll do when we get in the airplane is make sure that we have weather information. So I'm going to switch over to the weather, and we're going to listen to that real quick, get to hear what the weather is.
100. Temperature 8 Celsius. Dew point 17 Celsius. Altimeter 2,987. Inches of mercury. Remarks. Density altitude 3500. Springdale Municipal Airport. Automated weather observation 2059 Zulu. Wind 170 at 14 knots. Visibility more than 10. Sky condition few at 4,900. Temperature 8 Celsius. Dew point 17 Celsius. Altimeter 2,987. Inches of mercury. Remarks. Density altitude 3500.
Turn right on course, clear for takeoff.
Right on course, clear takeoff.
Okay. Now we're just letting the engine warm up. I like to let the oil temperature get about 100 degrees before I start taxiing. Right now I'm turning the GPS on so we can punch in where we want to go. The radio right now is set for the Springdale Tower, which when we turn up here, you'll be able to see the tower, and the gentleman that's talking to us will be in that tower up there. So periodically, you'll hear him talk to other airplanes that are talking to him, so you'll be able to hear that as well. Another thing I'm doing right now is I'm watching my engine temperatures, making sure the instruments are indicating what I would expect right now. And right now both of them are showing very close to one another. Everything is looking good. I put this little sunshade up here to try to help cut some of the glare off. It helps somewhat. Not very pretty. I haven't worked on making it pretty yet, but anyway, it works. All right, engine temperature's up over 100 right now, so I'm going to release my brake. Right now I'm going to go up and get some fuel before we take off. So what I'll do is I'll just taxi up here to the end of the taxiway, take a right, go around the buildings. To do this, I don't need to talk to the tower for this, so I can just proceed. Normally, if I was getting ready to fly, I would be asking the tower permission to taxi. So since I'm not headed towards the runway, I'd be okay. All right, I release the brake. We're rolling now. We're going to constantly be checking for aircraft taxiing around here, make sure nobody's taxiing, so get out of their way if they are. There's the tower. I think you can see it right up there. person up there is an air traffic controller, and it's their job to keep all the airplanes away from one another while they're flying. So they got a really important job up there, so glad they're looking out for us. All right, we're going to taxi up this hill. Give it a little throttle to get up the hill. Now, while we're on the ground, I'm just mainly steering with my feet. My stick really doesn't do anything until I'm getting ready to take off and actually in the air. So one thing that I'll do is hold back on the stick a little bit to keep the tail down, and also correct for any crosswind. Here's a fuel pump right up here. All right, we're here. We're going to set the parking brake, bring the engine to an idle, and at that point I'm just going to pull the fuel shut-off valve all the way off. The engine will come to a stop when it runs out of gas. So that's pretty much all there is to shutting it down. I'll flip all the switches off and get some fuel. Springdale Tower, experimental 367 Sierra X-ray ready for takeoff on 36.
Experimental 7 Sierra X-ray Tower, runway 36, clear for takeoff, make left trap, report to base.
Clear for takeoff 36, report left base.
Tower Chancellor 02 Lima, ready to go, 36. Center 02 Lima Tower, runway 36, clear for takeoff, right turn eastbound, approved. Traffic just departed is experimental in my left-hand traffic pattern.
We'll be looking for the traffic rolling on 36 and out to the right for 02 Lima.
Experimental 76 X-ray, traffic departed behind you off runway 36 with the right turn eastbound as the Chancellor.
I'll be looking for traffic, 7 Sierra X-ray.
And Springdale Tower, Skyline 735 Yankee Yankee, just north of the terminal hangar 7. Taxi to take off, we're just VFR out to the east.
November 735 Yankee Yankee, Springdale Tower, runway 36, taxi via the west side parallel taxiway, wind 02015, altimeter 3029er.
36 via the west, 5 Yankee Yankee.
Look out to 5 Whiskey Mike. Traffic at 11 o'clock and 2 miles as an experimental. Last reported at 2500.
5 Whiskey Mike, looking. 5 Whiskey Mike has the traffic.
Maintain visual separation. What altitude are you climbing to?
Climb to 2,500.
Roger. Seven Sierra X-ray, you're about 3 miles to the south now.
Affirmative, 3 miles, getting ready to turn final for 36.
Remember 7 Sierra X-ray, runway 36, clear to land.
Cleared to land 36, 7 Sierra X-ray.
Helicopter 5 Whiskey Mike, frequency change approved.
5 Whiskey Mike, thanks for your help.
Okay.
Seven Sierra X-ray at a 2 mile final right now.
Seven Sierra X-ray, roger. And the wind is 3408. Toronto 7 Sierra X-ray, taxi to park.
Taxi into parking, 7 Sierra X-ray. Thank you very much.